It is so fucking unbearable. My fucking frustration is just building up, so I need to talk to you guys. Why was I watching the military parade? I wanted to see the weapons. I also had a gut feeling that it was almost over. So I was looking to see if anyone would fly a drone over the Tiananmen Gate Tower. But when I watched, holy shit, I was so disappointed. There wasn't a single brave man in the whole fucking world. What a perfect opportunity. Putin, Xi Jinping, and Kim Jong-un were all sitting together, less than a meter apart. These three pieces of shit were on the Tiananmen Gate Tower, and the free world was so disappointing. It would have only taken one missile, one shot, and world peace. Holy Sfei. I was so disappointed. Did something happen during the parade? Yes, something did happen. A drone didn't show up, but I knew something was going to go wrong. I thought it would be a drone, or at least Zhang Youxia leading a group of special forces to take them out. Instead, Zhang Youxia was placed all the way on the side. His face only appeared for a split second throughout the entire parade in a row with the retired old officials. Holy shit, Li Ruhuan and Wen Jiabao were lined up. Wang Quishan was there, and that a whole Li Zhangshu was wearing a small suit. Wang Yang had his little paw out, standing very properly. Zhang Gaoli was the last one, and Zhang Youxia was off to the side. Holy shit, it was pathetic. So what happened? Let's get to the point. No one expected that before the parade started, as Chinese and foreign journalists had their long lenses pointed at the viewing stand behind the Tiananmen Gate. Kim Jong on Xi Jinping's left and Putin on his right. The three evil axes of China, Russia, and North Korea walked up. They were chatting, and the BBC happened to record it. CCTV also recorded it. What the hell did they say? The BBC's broadcast, and all the others today. I am guessing CCTV will delete this part. You can hear it. You can hear it overseas. And even on CCTV's broadcast, right now, at 8:36 a.m., you can hear them as they're walking up the ramp. You can hear them talking about living to 150 years old. Someone said that by this century, humans are predicted to be able to live to 150. This guy is 70 years old this year. He wants to live to 150. Putin says that now you can get organ transplants. Technology is getting more and more advanced. Human organs can be constantly transplanted to live forever. Getting younger and younger laughing, he says. Live forever, he continues. By this century, humans can live to 150 years old. I saw a comment saying I was nitpicking. Am I? I'll show you more to nitpick about in a minute. This 70-year-old is definitely going to rule for another 80 years and torment you. Holy shit, the three of them were chatting like. They were talking about their families, casually mentioning how human organ transplantation is getting more mature and how they can live younger and younger. These old men fantasize about getting younger and younger. All kinds of organs can be used. We can live to 150 this century. Holy shit, live to 150. Live forever. Are these holes even talking like human beings? Don't think I am nitpicking. This statement is actually very, very important because those organs come from living people. Don't think they're from dead donors. Where do China's organs come from right now? Anyone with a bit of social influence in China, go and ask the Beijing Armed Police Hospital or those organ transplant hospitals in Wuhan. Ask them where their organs come from. Ha ha ha, they're laughing. Come on, live forever, live to 150. It is truly terrifying. No one noticed until tonight. Some people are saying it was AI, but it doesn't sound like AI to me, because AI is made to sound good, just like the teleprompters. Just like Xi Jinping's handwriting in Tibet isn't fake, because fakes are made to look good. This conversation was very unclear and intermittent, with obvious translation, pauses, and Putin's fawning laughter. This is the first point of disappointment. At the beginning of the parade, the leaders were talking about organ transplants and living forever as they went to the Tiananmen Square. Is that how human beings talk? My old church friends all heard it on the Hong Kong live stream. The BBC still has it up. I am not making this up. It is not AI. The BBC broadcast on YouTube still has it at the beginning. This is what happens when you accidentally tell the truth. All you bodies are my Fing batteries. I'll use whoever I want. Who among you would dare to resist? This is the first thing that disappointed me. What is the second thing that disappointed me? Kim Jong-un, that son of a bitch, was actually standing in the center. Kim Jong-un, bitch, what have you done to the North Korean people? And he gets to stand in the center. It is truly forgetting the original intention. When Xi Jinping first came to power, he didn't meet with Kim Jong, and for several years. People said that Xi Jinping had raised a good son with a conscience for humanity. But I never expected that in the end, Kim Jong-un would get the center spot. Kim Jong-un got that seat in exchange for the blood of North Korean soldiers in Ukraine. Kim Jong-un sent 18,000 North Korean soldiers and lost a quarter of them. Over 100 of them were given special honors. A few days ago, Kim Jong-un was crying, wolf tears, and hugging those little lambs. He held a memorial service for the martyrs who sacrificed in the war. What does the war between Russia and Ukraine have to do with the North Korean people? The North Korean people are half-starved, and you send them to the icy cold of Ukraine to fight and die against the Ukrainian army. And thousands of them died. If we Chinese people are doing okay and eating well, then the North Koreans are truly feeling miserable. That BFAD of a North Korean emperor got the center spot at our major national event. This is a great shame for the Chinese nation. Who is this person we invited? What kind of heinous crimes has Kim Jong-un committed against the North Korean people? As a superpower, what does it say about your image when you put that bitch Kim Jong-un in your alliance? You think little pinks on the internet. Listen up, you sons of BS. If any one of you dares to say Kim Jong-un is good, go immigrate to North Korea immediately. Which BD among you would dare to go to North Korea? Which BFAD among you would dare to send your child to study in North Korea? You won't even go yourselves. Why do you say North Korea is good? North Korea is a country run by a major gangster who starves his own people and won't let any outside information in. When I first started working, I went to Dandong, and an official from the Dandong Public Security Bureau was having dinner with us and cried while he was talking. Many of the Chinese people in Dandong are of Korean descent and have relatives in Sinuiju, across the river. When the country was divided, some became Chinese and others became North Korean. They're all distant relatives. When they would go to visit, they would bring instant noodles and sausages to North Korea, and the relatives would celebrate like it was a festival, eating meat and instant noodles. Finally getting some grease, North Koreans still have a sense of shame. After they finished eating instant noodles at their relative's house, outside in the drainage ditch, there would be villagers standing there, waiting to collect the dishwashing water. The dishwashing water had some oil in it, and they would take it back to drink and eat. This kind of emperor in North Korea is a guest of honor in the center of our major national events. It is a disgrace to all Chinese people. Another thing that was extremely disappointing was, I just said yesterday that the Indonesian butcher, Prabowo Subianto, that son of a bitch, had a riot at home so he couldn't come. But it seems he'll even drink dishwashing water. Holy shit. He flew back last night and arrived this morning to attend the parade and ask for money. Holy shit. This butcher, Prabowo, specialized in killing Chinese people. During the 1998 riots in Indonesia, he was the commander of the Special Forces. Special Forces disguised as civilians and rioters surrounded several important Chinese districts. They killed the men one by one and raped and killed the women. And he was also a guest of honor, and his rank was very high. Isn't this a fucking disgrace to the Chinese people? These are the several major disgraces of today's parade. The last disgrace of today's parade was when they started singing a medley of revolutionary songs. It was blood-boiling to hear the songs of the anti-Japanese war. Of course, they should sing these songs. The ones singing were college students from the capital, young men and women. After watching them, my heart went cold. They are the same age as my eldest daughter, 18 or 19-year-old college students. Young people are the future of a country. Their mental state represents the quality of the nation. When these young people were singing these songs, look at their posture. They were straining their whole bodies. It made my heart ache. I was afraid they would faint from low blood sugar. Their eyes were wide open. They had the crazy, cult-like look of the Red Guards from the Cultural Revolution. When you sing, you should be full of spirit. Why the fuck are you widening your eyes like that? And they were so serious. Why did my heart go cold? I also went to college. I also participated in those kinds of events at Tiananmen Square. When we sang revolutionary songs, we were serious and lively, but we didn't have that crazy look in our eyes. It wasn't just anger. Did you see the look in their eyes? It was a look of complete loyalty to their master. They had to make sure their master saw them standing the straightest. Holy shit, these college students had no vitality. It is a terrible trend. It is so fucking insane. When I was a kid, student leaders had that same expression. When we were doing our morning exercises, there was always some B-face squad leader who would get up and lead the exercises. Fuck her. I wanted to kill her. Sometimes I'd have a stomachache in the morning and need to use the bathroom. But she would go on and on. She went on and on every week, and she would also lead the exercises. Luckily, that bitch wasn't smart enough, and her grades went down in middle school, so she didn't get into a key high school. Otherwise, she would have tormented me all through high school. It is that kind of crazy. Even though I was a good student, I loved to make sarcastic remarks. When I was a student leader, I was always a study committee member. I never wanted to be a class president or a Communist Youth League secretary. I disdained telling lies. I was so bad at it, I would always laugh. That guy, that big sister, as I used to call her, was perfect for playing Hixia. It was a model play from the Cultural Revolution called Hixia. I used to tell her, give you a little conch shell horn and a red tasseled spear, and you can stand on that reef by the sea and blow the horn. You wouldn't even need makeup. With 2 braids tied up high. Do you know what I am talking about? That crazy Hixia character, that kid would be diagnosed with ADHD today. When she became a militia captain, she would stay up all night blowing her horn, waiting for KMT spies. These hoes are all crazy. Thank God there are still a lot of slacker students. Holy shit, if these student leaders ever got into power, China would be finished. China would truly be in a perpetual winter. I used to not know what winter meant. Now I know, if these grandchildren grow up, what else would it be but winter? Alright, these are the several major disappointments of today. Now, let's change the topic. We're not going to be extremists. We'll praise what is good and criticize what is bad. Let's start with praise. What are we praising? The military on a purely technical level. I am a military enthusiast. As someone who was once a part of the Chinese military industrial system in college, I understand it very well. Don't truly look down on China's military manufacturing. Today's phones are made in China. iPhones are made in China. I don't need to mention phones, laptops, and cars. Electric vehicles are basically taking over Europe. Europeans are buying BYDs now, and Mexico is full of Xiaomi. In short, made in China is no longer what it used to be. You have to keep up with the times. China had a period of lying low. Then it slowly started to stand up. After decades of reform and opening up, civilian manufacturing has been upgraded little by little as Japan, the US and Taiwan set up factories here. The furniture I bought in Canada and the US that was made in China was really good. The microphones are good. Now it is all moved to Vietnam. And when I buy outdoor furniture, like umbrellas, from there it gives me a headache. Why? Because the screws and holes don't line up. The quality of made in China used to be excellent, even better than IKEA's back in the day. Now that Vietnam is making things, I don't dare to buy them. The level of Chinese manufacturing is not what it was in 1979. It is 2025 now. Made in China is very impressive and very competitive. If China's civilian products can be manufactured so well. And civilian products have to be profitable. So sometimes the materials aren't the best. Can you imagine military products not being well made? At the very least, military products won't be worse than civilian ones. Do you understand? So there were a few major highlights today. Besides what I've said, all the other weapons that appeared today were garbage. Someone asked if the DF-5C was impressive, because it was the biggest and thickest one. I said that is like my old vintage car. It is for Saturday parades. It is something you drive out when the weather is good. In a real war, the DF-5C is useless. Why? Because it is a liquid-fueled missile. How is it useless? Think about how the vinegar and soy sauce in your house can go bad. The fuel inside that missile can also go bad. So you have to drain it, and the missile casing has to be dry. Before a war, all the liquid fuel has to be added on site. The cryogenic liquid creates a white vapor. You might say, Wang, that sounds a bit like the Starship. You are right. The Starship is also liquid-fueled. You have to pour liquid oxygen and kerosene, or liquid oxygen, and all sorts of chemical fuels into it. It is called a liquid-fueled rocket. When you are in a real war, while you are pouring that stuff in, do you think the enemy's satellites are blind? It takes several hours to fill it up. The smoke and vapor rise up like a fairyland. If the US wanted to fight you, their satellites would see that and know you are adding fuel, and they would attack you. And the fuel is highly toxic. Like the nitrogen tetroxide, the combustion efficiency has to be high because it is for military use. It is not like Musk's, who uses methane. It is highly toxic. That is why liquid-fueled rockets have been garbage for decades. Now, let's talk about a few things that shocked me today. Some were shown and some were not. I'll talk about the ones that weren't shown in a bit. We have to praise what deserves praise. The first one is the DF-61. The DF-61 has never been shown before. This was its first appearance. The DF-61 is a solid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missile, and it can be carried on a big truck. This is a road mobile land-based ballistic missile. It is on par with Russia's Topol missile, but it has now surpassed it. It can provide global coverage. It can be launched from anywhere on China's highway network and reach any place in the world. It is equivalent to Russia's current RS-24. Russia's RS-24 is their most advanced, and ours is on par with it. But we've already equipped our military with it. The DF-61 can carry at least 3 strategic nuclear warheads, or at least 15 tactical nuclear warheads. You might ask, what is the difference? In simple terms, it can carry 3 large ones or 18 small ones, the size of a sack. A single one the size of a sack can destroy an aircraft carrier group, or a small town, or a heavy armored division. What about the 3 largest ones? A single one can destroy a medium-sized city. A medium-sized city like Anshan or Harbin is enough. A city like San Antonio or Sacramento in Asia would be gone with one. Vancouver would be gone with one. So the DF-61 is a nation killer. Why? Because it uses solid fuel. What is solid fuel? It is something that can be made in advance and launched instantly. It can be moved around on highways, so you can't find it. Only China, the US, and Russia have this. That is the first one. The US is not strong in this area. You could say the US can't produce an equivalent. China and Russia are the best. Currently, China's DF-61 has surpassed Russia's. The second new thing is the JL-3, which appeared for the first time. The JL-3 is a sea-based solid-fueled strategic nuclear missile. You can think of it as the submarine-launched version of the DF-61. So the capability of the DF-61 is the capability of the JL-3. Multiple warheads, a dozen warheads, 3 strategic warheads, and multiple tactical warheads can all be deployed, and it can reach anywhere in the world. From the bottom of the Bohai Sea in China's inner sea, it can destroy any major US city in this regard. The US and Russia are on the same standard as China. This is something only China, the US, and Russia have. You might ask if France has it. No, they don't. Does the UK have it? The UK does. But it was provided by the US, so it is only China, the US, and Russia. And China's has now surpassed Russia's the level of the US's research and development. We don't know because the US doesn't hold parades. So there is probably not a big generation gap with the US. If there is, it is only a few years, maybe 10. It is very close now. You have to admit this. The JL-3 can be intercepted, and the DF-61 can also be intercepted. What else? The JL-1. The JL-1 is a strategic nuclear missile launched from an aircraft, something China has never had before. The US and Russia both have this, especially Russia, which loves to study this kind of thing. The Tu-95 and Tupolev, Tuesday -2, and the US's B-1 and B-2 can all do this. China revealed its JL-1 today, but it didn't reveal its platform, the H-20. The H-20 is the most advanced stealth bomber, a direct competitor to the US B-2. It didn't appear in the parade, even though it has already been equipped by the military, so its plane wasn't shown, but its missile was. The JL-1 is also a nation killer. Only China, the US, and Russia have it. China and the US are far ahead, and Russia is now behind. But besides these three, no other country in the world could build this even with 50 years. They just don't have the national power. So we are truly far ahead. Only the US can suppress you. The current situation is that only the US can suppress you. The US used to suppress you firmly, but now you've caught up. If it were a long-distance race, the US used to lap you. Now, their breath is right on the back of your neck. This is the relationship with the US. This confirms a point I've been making. I spend my days in the US and Canada. The US is a nation that was born in hardship and is dying in ease. The US has been at ease for too long and has lost its fighting spirit. American white people are so busy in fighting. People like Biden and Trump are so busy with internal strife. The US's stealth bombers, nuclear missiles, and stealth fighters like the F-22 have been in service for almost 40 years. They're as old as I am. There is no next generation. The 5th generation fighters, the F-22 and F-35, have been in service for a long time. And the 6th generation should have come out a long time ago. But it hasn't meanwhile. China has caught up. This is a major highlight. 3 nation-killing weapons were revealed. Any one of these can silence any country in the world, except the US and Russia. It is that simple. If they tell you to shut up, you have to shut up. Just remember the Opium Wars. When the British gunboats came, you had to shut up. Why? Because of the generational gap. These are nation killers. There is one more highlight, the 4th weapon. The highlight is the world's first ship, based laser cannon. You heard me right. It was placed on a long truck. The truck was probably full of batteries, because that thing requires a lot of power. They rode out a ship, based laser cannon. Let me tell you this, the US does not have a ship, based laser cannon. What are modern laser cannons for? They're for last-ditch interception, for short-range interception, to replace the short-range Sea Sparrow missiles used for air defense. It replaces them with a laser. It is like something out of Star Wars. It is truly impressive. And when you see that thing, you have to kneel. But its actual combat effectiveness has never been tested. All countries are developing this. But China rolled out a whole row of these trucks. Those are for sea-based use. And then there were all kinds of drones, unmanned ships, unmanned dogs, unmanned combat vehicles, unmanned submarines, and long-range, unmanned underwater vehicles. The variety of large drones was so great that some were hypersonic, reaching 3 or 4 times the speed of sound. They were all stealthy, with the tail nozzles on top. Some were designed for extremely high altitudes and looked like a B-2. Some were designed for extremely long flight times and looked like a kite. There was a huge boom in drones. I don't even need to mention the small drones. The drones from the battlefield in Russia are so common. They don't even need to be shown in a parade like this. They're like toys. There were so many drones, unmanned dogs. It was just too much. All these things show that they were made in China. They haven't been used on a battlefield in China yet, but I am sure a large number of them are already in use on the Russia-Ukraine battlefield. I am guessing their combat effectiveness isn't necessarily the most advanced in the world, but their speed of iteration, upgrade, and evolution, as well as their production capacity, are definitely the best in the world. The US can't compare. The US can't even make a DJI drone for civilian use. So what does that say about the speed of iteration? The drone industry in China is flourishing due to government policies and fierce competition. China is truly number one in drones. The massive and explosive appearance of this unmanned equipment is the third major highlight. The first highlight was the big nation-killing missiles. The second was the ship-based laser cannon. The third is all the various unmanned vehicles and devices. The fourth major highlight is the sea and air data networking capability. And its combat power is starting to show. Some of the equipment was on trucks, and some flew overhead. You see all those balanced planes, like the KJ-500 and KJ-2000 early warning aircraft, flying in front of the formation. Why? That is called aerial networking capability. When India and Pakistan had their dogfight, Pakistan was able to defeat India's Rafale jets 6-0 because of their aerial data networking capability. In other words, once you have this capability, it doesn't matter if your plane is the most advanced stealth fighter. No matter how advanced your plane is, if I have this full domain data link capability, you have no chance. From space satellites down to my full stealth fighters, to my beyond visual range missiles, to my aerial command platforms and early warning aircraft, they are all completely networked together. This means A can spot and B can fire, or even A can spot, B can fire, and C can guide the missile. This kind of capability is integrated across the sea and air. The Navy also has this capability. Missiles launched from naval warships can also be fired and guided in this way. And they can also be linked up with drones and unmanned ships. This capability displays an unprecedented level of power. Besides the US, there is probably no other country on Earth, including Russia, that has this capability. If Russia had this capability, the war in Ukraine would have been over long ago. So this is something that impressed us, but it hasn't been tested in actual combat. Again, apart from a small-scale dogfight between India and Pakistan, it hasn't been tested in any battles involving the Chinese military. So we don't know if it actually works, or if it is just a waste of money. We don't know. The fifth highlight is the display of a large amount of electronic warfare equipment aimed at the sky. You know that electronic warfare used to be for the sea and land, but this is electronic warfare for the sky. Those large antenna dishes were all raised, pointing upwards. What are they for? I'll tell you. They didn't exist before, and the US doesn't have them either. Therefore paralyzing GPS, navigation, satellites, and Starlink. You heard me right. The US wants to use Starlink for its next generation of warfare. And China has already developed things to counter Starlink, to blind it. This stuff was on display in large quantities. I am naming it anti-air electronic warfare. But it is mainly anti-satellite electronic warfare. It is meant to paralyze all Starlink, low orbit and mid-orbit satellites. This stuff was already brought out today, but I don't know the serial numbers. As a hardcore military fan, this stuff is so new that I can't even read the numbers. Of course, it hasn't been tested in the real war either, so we don't know if it is real or fake. We can only wait and see if Musk's Starlink 2 can counter them. Because once electronic warfare starts, it is all about who has the most power. If there is no technological gap, it is about who has the loudest voice. It is like two old ladies fighting. It comes down to who has the biggest lung capacity. After the parade was over, I can responsibly tell you that the People's Liberation Army only has one opponent on the high-tech battlefield, and that is the US military. Any other military is no longer an opponent. It is a complete beatdown due to a generational gap, because the PLA are fans of the US military. Why are they so strong? They don't do original research. They just look at what the US has and copy it. They're getting better and better at copying, and they produce more and at a lower cost. So now the US is in a bit of trouble from being copied. The last point is the various hypersonic glide vehicles I just mentioned. It is another boom. These are so rare in other countries. But here, they're like stinky tofu everywhere. What is a hypersonic glide vehicle? If you look at a missile, the warhead is usually conical. The warheads of all missiles, whether they're for air, sea, or land, are conical. But the warhead of a hypersonic glide vehicle looks like a duckbill or a vaginal speculum. It is exactly like the thing they use in a woman's exam. Why does China have so many of these? Because China has the world's fastest wind tunnel, one that can reach Mach 40. So making these hypersonic glide vehicles is like playing a game. Other countries really don't have this. And now, these hypersonic glide vehicles are not just for land, but they can also be used in naval warfare. I saw one with the designation JL-19, and it shocked me. It was in the shape of a hypersonic glide vehicle. Holy shit, it is for hitting ships. aircraft carriers, and destroyers. This thing is impossible to defend against. Some viewers said that these hypersonic glide vehicles can't be defended against. Human technology, including the US, currently has no defense against these missiles. Why? Because ballistic missiles fly on a predictable trajectory. So you can intercept them in the middle, but hypersonic glide vehicles can't be intercepted. Why? Because after they're launched into the sky, they skip along the atmosphere like a stone on water at hypersonic speeds. A shock wave forms. The vehicle rides this shock wave and skips forward. And it can even turn. And it is not just a Mach 3 or 5, it is many times the speed of sound. It is incredibly fast. No human missile can catch up to it. Even an anti-aircraft missile can't catch it. What about the laser I mentioned earlier? A laser travels at the speed of light, but current lasers are for very short range. A laser can't reach space. On a clear day, a ship-based laser weapon has a range of about 10 kilometers, maybe 20 at most. On a clear day, a hypersonic glide vehicle coming at that speed will travel that distance so fast that the laser won't even have time to lock on before the missile hits. So this thing is currently indefensible by any human weapon, a hypersonic glide vehicle at Mach 20. Do you know what that means? The Starship re-entering the atmosphere doesn't even reach Mach 20. This thing is much faster. You can't stop it. And the key is that it doesn't have a single trajectory. Like a big rocket, a hypersonic glide vehicle is like a snake with no set path. It is terrifying. This is something that China is number one in. The US doesn't have it currently. The US can't catch up to China because the US didn't take this seriously. The US doesn't have this many types of hypersonic missiles. It is not about surpassing the US and catching up with the UK. It is that the US doesn't have hypersonic missiles. The US can't even develop Mach 6 or 7 missiles, while China is doing Mach 25. So China is far ahead. The People's Liberation Army's weapons are truly advanced. Now, only the US military can fight the People's Liberation Army. My Canada has 3 pretty good destroyers that sailed to the Aleutian Islands, and they didn't even get to the other side of the Pacific before 3 missiles arrived and destroyed all 3 of them. It is that powerful. So is the US military still good. The US military is still stronger. You can rest assured about that. A skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. It is like the tortoise and the hare. The US military has been sleeping in place for over 20 years. From around 2000 until today, they've basically halted funding for new generational weapons. But once they recognize the danger, or if they lose a small-scale war and the US mobilizes, their capacity for innovation and development is something China can't compare to. China doesn't have the capacity for innovation. It has the capacity for copying and replication. And after a US product comes out, they're very good at modifying and copying it. But if you were to ask the Chinese to create something that Americans haven't even thought of, China can't do it. Hypersonic glide vehicles weren't even an idea that the Chinese came up with. So with things like the F-22 and F-35, which are from the previous generation of technology, the US government just didn't take it seriously. The US government believes it is invincible on Earth. So why bother with this stuff? As they themselves say, they can just take out one of their stored technologies and beat all the other countries on the planet combined. So there is no need to do this anymore. It is just a tortoise and hare race. The little hare fell asleep and the tortoise ran ahead. So that is it. I have so many friends from the military-industrial complex that I know their work ethic. They are not sleeping. While Xi Jinping is driving backwards, they are not. Especially when Zhang Youxia was the head of the General Armaments Department. When Xi Jinping first came to power in 2012, Zhang Youxia was in charge of new equipment procurement, and he was very serious about it. The speed of the funding was incredibly fast. I have an alumnus named Tian Ganyin, born in the 80s. Around 2010, he graduated from university and got his master's at Beihang University. He and a few others were working on flight control systems for DJI or some other company. And they were paid very little, basically being used like mules. This guy talked to his wife and used the money they had saved for a down payment on a house to build a prototype. He wanted to make his own drones. So what happened was he used the down payment money, about 2 million RMB, to build 2 prototypes. What kind of prototypes? Large capacity cargo drones. The drones you see today on the Russia-Ukraine battlefield existed back in 2010. But there was one blank spot, which was high-power helicopters. The drones that look like small helicopters in today's parade, those are their products. They can transport a payload of 500 kilograms. Do you know what 500 kilograms is? Do you know your own weight before he lost weight? Wu Yusanren weighed 100 kilograms. The drone can carry 5 of him. How far can it fly? A one-way trip of at least 1,500 kilometers. That is from Beijing to almost Shanghai. One drone has that kind of carrying capacity. He wanted to build this, and he built 2 prototypes. Of course, the prototypes weren't that powerful, but as long as he spent the money right, the prototypes came out. He went to the 2013 Zhuhai Air Show, where Zhang Youxia was in charge of new equipment procurement for the PLA. Zhang Youxia saw it immediately. Why? Because at the time, there were tensions in the South China Sea and the Himalayas with India and the Philippines. They were facing a huge problem. Building materials, construction materials, and ammunition couldn't be transported to the front lines. Once a war started and the highways or transport ships were sunk, how would you continue your combat operations? When we fought India in 1962, the Sino-Indian border self-defense counterattack was won. But then we had to withdraw and retreat for this very reason. Once a major war starts, both China and India are big countries. India had the support of three superpowers, the US, the Soviet Union, and the UK. China in 1962 was a lone wolf, even though we won the first battle like a hot knife through butter. And Zhang Guohua's 15th Tibet Brigade even captured an Indian general. India's reinforcements would be endless. All of China's weapons, ammunition, and supplies had to be carried by humans and animals across the Himalayas to get to India. How could we win that way? War is about logistics. You can do a surprise attack, but you can't keep doing it. So we had to retreat to within the supply range. And that is why we had to retreat even after winning. Why? Because we were not strong enough as a nation. At that time, there was no Qinghai-Tibet Railway. That is why they insisted on building the Qinghai, Tibet Railway and the Sichuan, Tibet Highway, to be able to stand up to India after they were built. We could fight a major war with India. But as you build, so do they. And you have to cross the entire Tibetan plateau. While India doesn't have to. India can just build on the plains. This problem continued to plague us until the early 21st century, when border clashes with India occurred again. Now we have an advantage. But once a war starts and both sides destroy each other's supply lines, what will you do? Zhang Yuxia's eyes lit up when he saw this. He immediately promised Tian Ganyin that his product was excellent, that he would buy it for the military, and that Tian didn't need to go public. The military will give you the money, he said. Tian Ganyin was stunned. Has fate turned to me, he wondered. Then he said, I don't have a military production license. People who run businesses know that in China, to produce a military product and get it on the PLA's procurement list, you need 6 licenses. They got him those 6 military licenses in 3 months. A normal company wouldn't be able to get them in 3 years. So everything was handled with special treatment. That is how you know I am telling all you dissidents. Don't even bother watching. We're not going to brag or criticize without facts. We're definitely anti-communist. The Communist Party is a dictatorship. We're definitely against the Emperor of Reversal, Xi Jinping, and his retrogressive actions. But you won't even admit what you see. How can you win with your pathetic level? How can you win if Xi Jinping is evil and you are an idiot? Can an idiot win against an evil person? In a fight between an idiot and an evil person, the idiot will be turned into human shish kebab. If a treacherous official is evil and you are a loyal official, you have to be even more cunning than the treacherous official. Otherwise, how can you defeat them? So this is a fact. So China's military industry hasn't stopped. Over the past 20 years, even though China's economy has been regressing and the real estate market has collapsed, and Chinese politics has become extremely left-wing, China's military development is in the golden age of its private manufacturing industry, having gained a massive amount of advanced Western technology. So China's military manufacturing has reached an unprecedented level of advancement, and China's military and aerospace development is based on 3 steps: pre-research a generation, develop a generation, and equip a generation. The H-20, J-35, and the J-20 that are already equipped, and the JL-1 and JL-3. The JL-3 was test-fired in 2019 and equipped in 2022. It has been in service for 3 years. Equip a generation means that they already have a more advanced generation in development, and an even more advanced one in pre-research. The equipped weapons have a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. So the generation being developed is already leading the world. The one in pre-research is something no one else has. This is a fact. If you don't admit it, you are just ignorant. Do you understand? Why smart Chinese people must be anti-communist? Even the soldiers who have these advanced weapons, I hope they awaken. They must be anti-communist. Why? If the Chinese nation is to truly become a world leader, to stand at the top of the world, it must get rid of the state of copying others. You must have the ability to do your own research and development. Do you understand? We must not be in a state where we just watch what the US is doing and then do it ourselves. In that state, you will never become number 1 in the world. Do you get it? I'll tell you why China can't surpass others. True development and true invention cannot come from large state-owned enterprises. Why? Because large state-owned enterprises that receive money from the Communist Party are run by people who play politics. The people who stand out in this system are mediocre talents like Xi Jinping and Li Qiang. What are innovation and invention? Innovation and invention can only happen when you don't follow the current rules. Humanity can only progress by thinking outside the box. But if you think outside the box in these kinds of enterprises, you'll be taken down. Why Nobel-level original inventions can only be made in a free system where private property, human rights, and respect are guaranteed? That is the principle. Because in a bureaucratic system, human creativity is driven out by bad actors. Could Elon Musk exist in China? He would be sent to a mental hospital. Are there people like him in China? Yes, I am one of them. Pan Shiyi is one of them. There are many creative people. But why can't they do what they want? Why do they have to run away? I'll give you an example and you'll understand immediately. For example, there are two great entrepreneurs in the US that we all know. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. They are both innovators in the IT field. One day, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg have a disagreement. Just like us Chinese, wherever there are people, there are conflicts and disagreements. My company, Galaxy Capital, grew big, and I had disagreements with Jai Shani. It is normal for us to part ways. It is the same in the US. Look, when Elon Musk founded PayPal and SpaceX, he had partners who left and wrote books insulting each other, right? And don't even get me started on Zuckerberg. Many of his partners claimed he stole their code, right? Do you remember? But in the US, that is where it stops. They write books insulting you, and then they hire lawyers to sue you, and it gets resolved with a settlement. That is the US. What is China? Like, I'll tell you, listen carefully. In China, when Zuckerberg and Elon Musk fight, Elon Musk lives in Texas and Zuckerberg lives in California. Zuckerberg goes to the California FBI to file a report and have Elon Musk arrested on the grounds of fraud. Then Elon Musk goes to the Texas FBI to file a report and have Zuckerberg arrested for raping women and tax evasion. Then the police from both sides go and try to arrest the other. Then Elon Musk and Zuckerberg flee. One goes to China for refuge, and the other goes to Russia. Then they remotely control their companies. Isn't that what happened with Guo Wengui? Isn't that what happened between Guo Wengui and ICU? All commercial disputes in China are handled this way. My two friends, Li Yuzhonglu and Zhang Ximing from Shaanxi, did the same thing. They were the two most powerful co-bosses in Shanxi. They were both college, educated from Renmin University, and studied law. They quickly made a name for themselves as co-bosses. But in a fight over a mine, each of them went to their local police to file a report to have the other arrested. Then they both fled. At first, they fled to Australia and Canada and controlled their businesses remotely. Later, they came back, sat in their police cars, and went to their own police station to turn themselves in. Why? Because the police chief was their lackey. So the lackey arrested his own boss and put him in his police car, taking him to and from work every day. Why didn't they fly? They were afraid the other side would arrest them at the airport. So when they had to go to Beijing for business, they took a police car to see me. What was going on when I saw them in a Santa's car? The Passat was the best police car they had. What were they doing? Their subordinates said that Li Yu and Zhang had reported each other. So now they were both traveling in police cars. Why? Because they were taking advantage of the system's loophole. As long as the police in one place start an investigation and arrest you, the police in another place have to wait for the first police force to finish. So they use this loophole to get themselves arrested first. This is not a joke. In a country with such internal conflicts, who do you think ends up with the most money? It is always the person with the power. Because in the end, Elon Musk and Zuckerberg would both have to go to the US president, or the president's son, or the president's brother. Can you save me? Big brother Xi Jinping, can you save me? Can you file a case with the Ministry of Public Security and have him arrested? Can you ask the Secretary of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, Big Brother Wang Quishan, to arrest Li Yu, to arrest Guo Wengui? In the end, all the money will go to Wang Quishan and Xi Jinping. Isn't that the truth? What does it mean to hunt for power? It means power is hunting you. It is not a nation ruled by gangsters or the police. In the end, it is about doing business with gangsters and the police. Why? Because as long as there is conflict between you businessmen, you all go to the police, the Ministry of Public Security, the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, the number one's brother, the country's mother. Will they help you for free? If the US were like what I just described, I ask you, would there be innovation? Could Zuckerberg have created Facebook? So the entire country must get rid of this system of power monopoly and dictatorship. It must give people freedom and establish the rule of law. Only then can you truly become a world leader. Otherwise, your position as a world leader is just something you copied. When you copy your homework and get first place, you'll fail the real test. Do you understand? It is that simple. So the current situation in China is that all the money and resources are taken by those in power. That is China's problem. As long as China has this problem, it can only be number 2 forever. I just hope they don't prove me wrong and truly re-enter the ranks of a civilized world. Get the hell away from idiots like Kim Jong-un and Putin. At least have some reliable friends. I admit the US is not very reliable right now because of Trump. It is hard to say they're reliable, but at least Canada has decent people. Canada and Australia may be incompetent, but they're not evil. Make more friends with these countries, get along with them, and they'll see you as the boss. How comfortable would that be? How safe would China be? Instead, you have Putin and Kim Jong-un surrounding you. Xi Jinping looked half dead today, unstable on his feet. He couldn't even make that last step up. Holy shit. And he wants to live to 150. Well, let's wait and see how long he lives. Goodbye, goodbye.